I was there when this card was announced at Computex back in June, and now it's finally in my hands and has completed the run on my test bench. The MSI GTX 1080 Gaming Z, or Gaming Z depending on your locale. Since I've already reviewed a couple of other GTX 1080s, and given that this is MSI's flagship GPU, my standards were quite high from the moment that I pulled this puppy out of the box. So did MSI equip the Gaming Z with enough to put it as the flagship 1080 in my mind? Let's find out. I've mentioned this in every single review that I've done on a new generation MSI gaming card, and I can't help but state it all the more emphatically here. I already criticized this implementation of RGB, and I do have to question the idea that an RGB LED needed to be. These cards, in my opinion anyway, don't need RGB LEDs. They already have a well-designed black and red aesthetic, which can't really be complemented by too many other colors. That issue is more prominently displayed on the Gaming Z because MSI has included an RGB Gaming Series Shield logo on the backplate of the card. I think it would have been a much better idea for MSI to simply make this a white LED, as RGB LEDs tend to produce an off-white, which in the case of my review sample is more of a blue hue, which didn't really complement the Gaming Z's already bold color scheme. Physically speaking, the main difference between the Gaming Z and the Gaming X is the inclusion of the Gaming Series Shield rather than the subtle imprinted dragon found on the Gaming X. While that may be minor, the real difference between the Gaming X and Gaming Z is one of clock speed. In OC mode, the Gaming Z has a boost clock speed of 1911 MHz with a base clock of 1771 MHz, an increase of roughly 64 MHz over the Gaming X. This is complemented by the 10,108 MHz memory clock on the 8GB of GDDR5X VRAM with the 256-bit memory interface. In actual gaming sessions, however, my boost clock, thanks to GPU Boost 3.0, would range anywhere from 1974 MHz to 2025, with the card usually settling in at 1987 MHz. Cooling all of those hertz is the Twin Frozr 6 setup found on all new Gaming Series GPUs. Twin Frozr 6 utilizes 4 copper heat pipes up to 8mm, which transition to being cooled by the double ball bearing Torx 2.0 fans. In gaming sessions, on the default fan curve, this practically meant that the card hit a peak temperature of 72 degrees Celsius with a max fan speed of 58%, which is actually a few degrees higher than what I saw in the Asus Strix GTX 1080, even though the ambient temperature in my office has actually decreased since that review. However, I will note that the Gaming Z provided a slightly quieter experience even at that fan speed. In addition to the backplate, MSI has also included a GPU support bracket to help reinforce the Gaming Z's larger than standard aftermarket PCB. Focusing on the outputs, MSI has opted to go with the standard GTX 1080 layout of a single DVI-D, a single HDMI 2.0B, and triple DisplayPort 1.4. For power, the Gaming Z features a 10-phase PWM power delivery design with both a single 8-pin and single 6-pin PCIe power connectors. With that power delivery system, which MSI touts as for better overclocking, I was able to push the card to just barely over a game-stable 2.1 GHz. Now, benchmark time. All of the benchmarks were run with the aforementioned OC mode that MSI includes on the card, not the personal overclock that I was able to hit. Overall, the Gaming Z did really well at 4K, providing some rock-solid FPS at maximum detail settings. But even with its flagship status from MSI, it barely beat out the Asus Strix OC edition that I tested by roughly only 1/2 to 1 frame per second. Not quite definitively king of the hill status, with GPU boost likely being able to sway the results one way or the other in a normal user system. Putting those FPS in terms of a value proposition against the Strix 1080 and Galax 1080 EXOC that I've already reviewed, it shows that the Gaming Z has the highest cost per frame rate with its exceptionally high US pricing of $750 and South African pricing of 15,499 Rand. Based on everything that I've tested with the MSI GTX 1080 Gaming Z, it seems to have come up short in nearly everything that I was hoping for it to have. Its gaming performance barely outpaced the Strix 1080, and it did so while running hotter than the Strix card as well. And on top of that, MSI is charging premium pricing for the card. Now granted, the benchmark numbers that I've come out with will vary from system to system, but even so, the extra $30 in the US or 1,000 Rand here in South Africa that the Gaming Z is going for doesn't really seem to show up when the card is tested. However, hedging against my criticism of the Gaming Z just a bit more, pricing of Pascal GPUs has been crazy as of late due to supply shortages. So take my price per frame rate numbers with a huge grain of salt if you're watching this video anywhere past the early part of August 2016, and make sure to double check the pricing on this card. In fact, even since my Strix 1080 review was published, that card has increased in price by roughly $40. Definitely not stable pricing at all. Once pricing settles down a bit, the Gaming Z may indeed offer a more compelling value argument. However, I think it'll need to be priced near even with the Strix 1080 OC edition for me to even consider buying this. If pricing can level out, then the Gaming Z is a solid performer that provides fairly silent gaming in a powerful exterior package. And with that slightly downcast conclusion, I'd like to thank MSI South Africa for sending the GTX 1080 Gaming Z over for review. Let me know down in the comments if you're keen to pick up any GTX 1080 at this point, or if you're going to wait it out and wait till supply levels and pricing evens out a bit more. Also, let me know down in the comments what you think of the RGB LEDs on the Gaming Z. Am I being too hard on it? I want to hear your thoughts. So, you can like this video if you found it helpful at all. Dislike it if you disagree with me or my conclusions. You can subscribe to stay up to date on all of my tech-related content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.